Hello, my name is Vilcata, and welcome to Pixel Perfect, episode 43. Ever since we added the intro, every time I go, Pixel Perfect, I feel like I have to rainbow it. But anyway, welcome back. And of course, today will be the final part of our aluminum sub-series, Path to Aluminum, where we actually finish up and activate the new aluminum facility. And it's going to be a very busy episode. I still have a ton left to do. And since we have already gotten through most of the math, we've already built the foundation for the complex, put together all of the machines, we've done much of the logistics, though there are still quite a number of challenges ahead of us. And we've got most of the walls, the perimeters at least, already up. But of course, the proper walls are not yet built. So, since much of that is already done, there probably will not be a time lapse in this episode because a lot of it's going to be detail work. And I have a general image as to how I want the facility to look, but the devil's in the details. So that's quite enough. Let's let's get to the train and get going over there. All right, here we are arriving at the new site, and there's the Tower of Power. Why are we breaking? Oh, because I haven't connected it. That's all right. We're going to turn off self-driving. That's fine, because I didn't actually want to pull into the station, because I don't have this set up for loading and unloading. We have all of our supplies that we have on here. And I don't actually want it to interact with the new station because we're not delivering the product that we're going to have on the belts. So I intended to shut off the train just before we pulled into the station anyway. But by the time we need to leave, this will actually be connected. I duck our heads for that rock. Oh, well, just not pay attention to that. And this is the little silica drop off. We're not going to stop here. Pull forward a little bit more. In fact, you know what? I guess we don't have to pull all the way into the station. Let's stop here. This will be perfect. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So, here we are at the job site, and I'm not going to really go over, what's going on here. If you didn't see last episode, then you might want to go back and check that out first, because it'll make a lot more sense if you know how we got to where we're at. But to pick up from where we left off, we have, of course, still to secure our water source, which is going to come in here. This will be two 400 pipes. And so we're going to have let's call it a feature over here that will be unpacking bottled water and will be supplying the water that's necessary. So that is something that we still have to build. That build's going to be a little bit challenging. I haven't pre-built it. It's kind of an image in my head. It's not going to be a standard building, and it's going to be a challenge because, well, you'll see. They managed to pull it off, but it's not going to be a square building. And since we're not using mods, we can't really easily make rounded buildings. So we're going to have to experiment and see what we can come up with. But we'll have to do that over there. And then we will still have to deal with some of our water output. Now, last time we did set up this little water chain that goes over, and this is where most of our water is going to get used up. Well, about half of it, right? Half of it's going to feed back to the last two refineries. And then it's going to go into this grid of copper producers because we need copper ingots for the smelting process or for the final construction of the aluminum products. But there will be some more leftover aluminum, so we are going to need to build two more refineries somewhere, not part of these buildings. That will be our wet concrete that uses up a tremendous amount of water, and then of course we'll need to have a awesome sink as well. Now those might actually be external and exposed, because again, this is supposed to be an industrial complex, and having some functioning machines outside is going to give it a more living vibe for the industrial feel. kind of, some external support buildings or machines. So they'll probably just kind of be out, maybe out here somewhere. Maybe we'll put them back here in the corner. But I don't think we're going to put a building for them. I think I want them to be exposed. And especially since there will be an awesome sink in there and it'll look kind of like a garbage disposal, some type of setup. So we'll worry about those probably kind of last. After everything else is good to go, we'll know aesthetically where we can place it, and we'll just drop them down somewhere. Of course, this belt will go because we will be using that coal as part of our process, and we are going to be importing a lot of coal via train, and the coal is going to be coming down from over in that corner, which I believe we went over last episode. And yeah, I think that's about it. We still need to set up our packaging of water and still have to decide where we want to pick it up. And I have some ideas, but I'm going to make some final decisions on it. But I don't want to worry about that right now. I think what I want to do first is I actually want to start skinning this building. Kind of get, the walls up. It's going to define the height of our overall structure because these are the tallest machines. And in fact, because refineries are so tall, I decided to make these two-story buildings over here. Now, if you were around for a couple episodes ago when we did the initial outline, we actually did this grid of foundries all on one floor. And when I came back and actually built them during a time lapse, I put them on 2 floors because I didn't want these buildings to be dwarfed by the buildings in front. Because these are the front of the line, and again, we're going to be kind of viewing this entire complex from this area, looking back on everything, as well as being able to look out at the Tower of Power. So, also in regards to the Tower of Power, probably next episode we will go over this structure. This, again, took, I believe, 7 live streams. And probably 90 plus hours, and it's still not done. There's still some cleanup to be doing, and a little bit of tweaking of making sure we have enough product in it and whatnot. But it is fully functional, so no more streams on that. Well, all right, let's just get to work here. Start putting up some walls. Start picking out a little bit of color. Start going with establishing our theme. All the buildings are going to be similar, but not the same because they have different functions and they want to kind of reflect their function either in color or design. But I do want it to look like that this is one complex that is working together for a singular goal. So I'm going to start putting up some walls, and I will bring you guys back and show you what I've come up with. And there's so much more I want to do, and I don't want to waste too much time because we want to walk and talk when it's all done. Okay, I think it's a good time for an update. Hopefully the thumbnail hasn't already spoiled the design of this building, but I love it. I love the way this came out. Of course, we wanted to go with the aluminum theme, which is why the aluminum sidings. I mentioned in a previous episode when I did the archways that they were a hint as to part of the theming of the entire area. And this was kind of what I was getting at, was that we're going to incorporate the siding into the buildings in a number of ways so that we could kind of, point out that this is, of course, an industrial complex and it's producing aluminum. I mean, sure, it is technically steel, but it counts. But, we've gone with the off-white and the kind of beige because we're using bauxite and aluminum scrap and aluminum solution. So that's kind of why I went with that color scheme. And then I kind of needed to create a foundation. I experimented a lot with this bottom level, and I found that I needed it to not detract from everything else. So each iteration of it went a little darker, and I tried really hard to incorporate concrete walls into this bottom floor. It just didn't come out right. And after experimenting for a bit, I realized that this crimson, or what I call old brick red, was really appropriate for this. It created a nice foundation. I'm very happy with how it works. with the rest of it. It sets the building on something. Doesn't take away from everything else, but it looks good when looking at it. So that's going to be kind of our central theme, tying our buildings together. You'll see they'll all have that crimson bottom. And again, I mentioned the little archway, and this was always meant to be part of it. So this is tying the buildings together as well, and we have the siding. Now, this building here, I'm very pleased with this as well. I tore down this several times and just went with multiple designs that just didn't work for me. And I'm finally happy with this one. It started out too bright, and I had to darken them a bit because originally it was a copper color because this is our building that's producing our copper ingots, and I like to theme the colors kind of as close as I can with the products in them. But it was too bright, and I kind of needed another color with it. I kind of went with that orange with the blue, and that was a little too bright as well. It really didn't work out. In fact, let's let me show you one of the many failed attempts. I actually saved it just in case I wanted to come back to it. Let's take a look at it. Now this is an example of one of the building designs I tried out, and as you can see, it's quite active. It didn't start out this way. It just evolved into this after multiple iterations and changing things I didn't like and playing with colors, and it just kind of got out of hand. Now, to be honest, I don't hate this. This isn't actually terrible, and I might take some of these ideas and apply them somewhere else eventually, but it doesn't work for this industrial complex, and it's way too bright and way too busy. So it's just, I had to scrap it. And I mean, this took a long time, right? It's a lot of individual pieces, and none of these are standard colors. So and painting everything individually, it took a lot of time to work it out. And again, multiple iterations. I had to scrap it and start over again. But this is just one example of the many things that I have gone over and thrown out in favor of our current design. Which let's just jump back to that. So this was the final design I went with, and again, I'm just so very happy with it. I think the colors are a little bit more muted, and they don't take over the design of the building. They give us something to look at without it being distracting, and I like that much better. It feels more industrial to not have as bright of a colors. I mean, sure, we have whites over here. These are kind of bright, but it's not garish, I guess. And so I'm very happy with this. I think it came out great. Let's go a little higher here and take a look at the roof. I think that probably all the buildings are going to be done in this metal. I'm not really sure yet. We haven't finished the last two down there. But I think it does a good job of bringing together the theme of the area as well, kind of bringing the buildings together. In this building, we went with the old slanted roof thing that we've done at other places, though we were a little more generous with the lighting, and I think it came out wonderfully. I put a kind of a roof access up to here. You can see we can come down on the inside, and how well lit this is. I love it. I think it really worked out. And over here, we'll take a moment to look at how the door came out. There's another door on the other side. There might be more later on, but I wanted to show this. It's a little like employee entrance. You got a nice little tree to walk under and a little railing there, and you can go in either one of the doors. And beyond these buildings, I've really kind of knocked out most of the rest of the project that had not been taken care of. So behind the scenes, we have regular concrete walls, and this is, actually realistic. I've worked in warehouse and factory settings, and you get that kind of that back area usually where you have deliveries and whatnot. They're not, as polished as the front. It's kind of business in the back. And that's why I went with that, and I think we're going to keep with that going down. And as you can see, I've worked out the belting situation. And let's see here. Let's go over kind of what we're doing here. One of the things I've done is I've tapped the copper node that we were going to need. So we have a copper belt coming up. That pops up and goes over, and that'll go down. We'll follow that in a moment. We have here our bauxite coming in, and I've put an intermediary storage here for this specifically because we have bauxite coming in from two sources. Two different trains will be coming in from two different locations. And since we are producing exactly 1,200 per minute between our two locations, which is exactly what we need, we don't want to have a train come up here and not be able to drop off its cargo because we haven't drained this yet. So, the trains won't be on the same timing because their loops are going to be a different length. I want to maximize the chances that we empty that out. So at max speed, we're going to dump all of it into here, and this line will eventually back up because even though it's a Mark V, we're not using 780 worth of bauxite per belt. So this should back up. These two should never back up. So this container should fluctuate in how full it is between deliveries. So this is the padding that we need to try to ensure that that doesn't get backed up and we're unable to deliver because one train got here right behind the other one. And that'll minimize that impact. So that's going to be these three belts here, 2 bauxite and 1 for the copper. Here we have these 2 belts these are our going out belts. These are going to be our aluminum products, which will be the sheeting and the casings. And this is going to be a dual purpose station here that is going to be bringing in coal because, again, we're not producing enough coal in this area. And it's going to be bringing in the limestone that we're going to end up needing. Now, unfortunately, we need more coal and limestone than can fit on one belt. So this will be bringing in 480 coal and I think 168 limestone. And it's important that we stay right on the dot because it's going to be shared and we don't want to overflow one over the other one. And what will happen is it will immediately split off the limestone onto its own belt. And then right after that, we'll be merging in the rest of the coal that we're going to need, which is coming from over in the distance. And that will be 240 coal combining with our 480. And it's going to give us our total 720 that we need, and our one belt can handle that. Let's follow these down here. I've got most of these placed. I haven't placed a little bit of it because I wanted to have some visibility to show you what we're doing. And here our 2 bauxites have already dropped off. You can see the bauxite over there. Let's get down lower. See, that's the second bauxite and first bauxite have already delivered. So we only have one belt at this point, which is our copper. And that's good because we free up some stacking space so that when we get over here to where our aluminum scrap is coming out, we now have room for more belting. And we did move the scrap up a window. We had them down here and here, but I needed room for the copper to come through. And again, this belt's going to be gone. That's our coal that will be redirected over to the other side. And we will have belts coming back across, which will be our aluminum. But we have here our 4 scrap. We drop off our copper. And here's where we had to get a little creative. And I think this worked out wonderfully. Of course, this is our silica coming in. And up to this point, we had all 4 of our scrap lines in one row. Now, over at this building that's using scrap, it's using both the scrap and the silica, and it's, that's 8 inputs. It's a lot of input, right? We have 2 for scrap on each floor and 2 for silica on each floor. And if we brought all of them in, say all 4 of these were the silica line or the scrap line, we would have problems with delivering, on each side without them running into each other. So what we've done is we've interwoven them at this point. So here we go. We have 4 scrap. We have the bottom scrap switches over and goes to the second tier. And then we have the third scrap that switches over and goes to the 4th tier. And that gives us a space to interlace some silica over to the rightmost line. And one over, so it's on the first one, we go silica, scrap, silica, scrap. And then when we come over here to our second silica output, you'll see silica on the bottom. It's the same pattern. We'll have scrap on the second rung. And then more silica. And then finally, more scrap. And as we go along, you'll see we also split. So we have our silica scrap, we split it to create a gap in the middle. This is where our copper ingots will be coming out. And that works out just fine because we're delivering to a second floor up here. So we just kind of split it in half, and we're going to let the copper ingots just mosey on through. Already got that connected. There we go. And that will take care of all of our scrap and all of our silica. That is just perfect. And you can see I have some stacking poles here. This was kind of a proposed idea for getting the products around these. I don't think we're going to go with that. And we'll go over why in just a second here. And also these signs are backwards now because it's now silica on bottom, scrap on top, just to get the split to work properly without any clipping. But it's fine. The input speeds have all been fixed. So all I just haven't done is reverse the signs. That's fine. I'll probably be deleting the signs anyway. And finally, of course, we still have these two buildings to do. But what we have finally to resolve here is how we're going to do the output. So after our ingots come in, I'll probably rework that to make it look a little nicer. But after our copper ingots come in and our aluminum ingots come in, we're going to have two belts coming out. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually bring them around the front. As I mentioned before, I wanted this to be a visible place. I wanted it to look industrial, and I want you to see some things going on. Now, the giant belt spam in the back, I don't want to see. I want that in the background. It's kind of the dirty part. And that will be covered but when this is done. But the production of what we're producing, I think if we bring it out front, we can bring it across, and that'll give us a reason to have some more of these areas here where we can do the crossovers. Let's bring that up like this. Come, oh, I want to go vertical. So we could do something like this, and we can run them across, and then I think run them across the walls on the outside so we can see product being delivered. Bring it across again, and then I think we will go along the wall. That gets us past this hump of all the tall belts, and then we can just ride them on top all the way back to where they're going to go. And the stuff in the background will be covered up by walls to some degree, and this will make more sense once it's built. I have some plans for this area. And then finally, of course, we will decide where we're going to put the final two refineries for our limestone. So there will be some finagling there to get the limestone over here, but I'm not too worried about that. I've got that more or less kind of planned out. Also, I think we want, no, that's not right. That's not right. I was looking at it earlier and I was like, I want it to bring it to, you know, I think I know what we want. Let's see here. Let's try the industrial railing. Looks like from the ground. Oh yeah, that's not obscuring the pipe, but it also makes it look like there's a ledging. First, we'll need to paint these. I don't want them to really stick out. I think that let's go with some kind of gray first, just see if that works out for us. Because it is with, you know, it's along the aluminum siding. Yeah, I think that works out. Yeah. All right, that's good. All right, we're good. And we got another door here. See, there's another door. So we can get inside. I didn't give roof access to this one, but I did go with a different design, which I really like. So we have, kind of the ventilation going out for the refinery pipes. And we have a couple more sets of them over here, and that's just kind of how they worked out. And so, I mean, it almost looks a little bit more greenhouse, but it gives it a lot of lighting for the interior. I think it came out very nicely. I'm happy with it. So we can go inside here and look at it. As you can see, I've already wired everything up. That's all good to go. All the piping, everything's done. These buildings are ready to rock as soon as we just start supplying them. Okay, so it's done. The entire factory is done. Before we go over anything, though, I want to mention I don't know yet how the editing will come out for this video. I have not actually started it yet, even though normally I have by now. What I can say is that before this clip, there may have been some unusual jumping in the presentation. Normally I make a real effort to make things as smooth as possible, to hide any edits necessary, or reshoot parts so that they just run more smoothly, because I like continuity. But the fact is that this project had enough left in it from a work perspective to justify another episode, but I didn't want to go on to a part 5. I wanted to complete it today. And since the last clip, it's been 2 or 3 days and probably 10 to 15 more hours worth of work, and just getting things done and tweaking and everything. And there's so much that has gone into this that I want to give it a proper go over review with you guys. And there's somebody angry around here. And because of that, I'm probably going to go over some things that I have already recorded, and I would rather them be in this part than the previous recordings, which means I will have cut them out of the previous kind of walkthrough updates, because I know I did some updates as I was going, so that it wouldn't just go from nothing being done to it all being done. So that being said, if there were any weird jumps prior to this point, I apologize, but it was so that this part would be smoother, because I'm so happy and proud of this project that I want this to be smooth, and I don't want to have to jump too much. I don't want to have to skip too much. So that being said, let's actually get to it. I'm not sure how much time we have left, because again, I haven't done any editing yet. And this is actually going to be a 2-part review of the area. I'm intentionally keeping my back to the structures. That's all behind us, because this first part's going to be about trains, and we need the trains to be running before we can actually review the whole thing going. So we're gonna go over the trains real quick, and I want to go over this. It's important because there are multiple trains, and I want to exhibit how to properly set up multiple trains on one project, and how you need to be careful when you don't have, say, multiple stations side by side for drop off and pickup. We're reusing the same station multiple times. So let's go through them real quick, one at a time. And I have one train that's not fully set up, because I want to go through that as well live so that you can understand how this works if you're not familiar with it. This is going to be our most simple train. This is just our delivery train of the final product. So our station is the Aluminati, or I'm going to refer to it as the home station. It's the home station for this project, even though home is our actual base. But it'll stop off at the home station, the Aluminati station, and it will pick up the aluminum sheeting and the casing, and then it will go home and do its drop off. But it's not going to unload anything here. So if somehow or another anything else ends up on this train, it won't accidentally get dropped off here. And that's important practice when you're running into a station that has multiple freight platforms, but a particular train isn't interacting with all of them. And so that's going to keep it from picking up or dropping off anything that we don't want it to. So let's go ahead and send it on its way. It's actually probably going to make a couple trips before it has anything to do because it's not actually picking up anything until this whole thing is running. And this, I think, is the train that we still need to set up. All right, and by setup, I mean I have the stations designated, but I don't have them defined, and I wanted to walk through one manually. So here we are, we're going to again call the home station the Aluminati. That's the station right in front of us, right here. It's then going to go to the coal and lime station, which is down here. And then it's going to go to bauxite 2 and water, which is up here. So if we edit this, we're going to stop off first at the coal and lime. We're going to pick up coal and lime. We're not going to drop anything off. Coal, limestone. Now, that station right now doesn't have anything that could accept anything, but what if in the future we needed to do double duty on that station for another purpose? We have, like at our electronics hub, we have multiple stations that are interacting with multiple trains for different purposes. This will keep us from accidentally messing something up in the future if we decide to use that station for something else that's not related to this, because it has a bunch of open slots on it. So this is a good future proofing. Going up to the bauxite, that station probably will never change, but you know, we're just going to be careful. Let's see here. We are going to pick up bauxite while we're there. We're going to pick up packaged water. And we're going to drop off the empty canisters. Canister. And then when we are at the Aluminati main station, we will be picking up canisters. And we will be picking up, that's actually where it's all we're going to pick up. We're going to unload water, which goes to the canisters. We're going to unload coal, and we're going to unload limestone. Now always make sure you hit the save. I so often hit the X instead of the save, and I've messed this up so many times, it's unbelievable. I'm going to reduce this timer even though it should never come into play. And save changes to the train. I've also canceled out of that a lot of times. And then we're going to send it on its way. That's train number 2. Now we have a number of stations or products that are at stations that are high volume. So this right here is going to be our redundant train. That's going to, it's taking a different path than other trains are. I don't want to interact with the platform. I want to interact with the train. Thank you. But this is making sure that we get everything here fast enough. And it's possible that in the future I might need to add another train. Also, our home train, it's going all the way back home with the final products, passes by all 3 of these stations and could be used to stop off and pick stuff up if we find that they're not getting here fast enough. Sure, we save and send. And then finally, that guy get past us. Oh, and let's fall into the station. I still need to put some of these to the ground. We'll worry about that some other time. And this last one is going to be our silica train. Hopefully it's going to be able to handle the silica on its own. It's kind of a long trip. I'll find that out after we run it for a while. But we will be going to, of course, the drop-off first. This is where it would drop off the silica. And this is where it really illustrates how important it can be to set up what do you want it to have to do at each station. And the reason here is because we're going to be hitting 2 stations where we are sharing the same slots. So silica is the first 2 train cars. Well, when we get to the Aluminati station, the first 2 train cars are water and canisters. So when we get there, we want to make sure we are not loading anything because it could pick up the empty canisters. We don't want it to do that because it never goes to the actual water site. And we want to make sure it's only unloading bauxite because if it accidentally had, you know, more silica left on it somehow, we don't want it to unload the silica into what would be the water location. And it would mess up everything. So it's important to set these up. So at the silica, it drops off only the silica, and at the Aluminati, it only drops off the bauxite, and then it goes to silica, picks up silica only, bauxite, bauxite only, and of course that's going to be the main bauxite location. And that will be our initial bevy of trains. That's all of them. And I'm going to let them run for a little bit. It's going to take a long time for this entire factory to run at full pace, but that's not necessary for us to review it. So I'm going to pause for probably, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and then we will do the walkthrough of the entire facility. So I will see you then. Looks like final products are starting to come out. It'll still be a good way before it gets, fully balanced and everything up and running at full speed, but this should be sufficient to start walking through and showing off all the features. And I think the best place we can start, you see down there is a little car ready for us, is with the water, because this was the kind of one of the things that I kept hinting at over the past episodes. I kept saying I've got something in mind for this. It was something I just didn't want to reveal. I wanted it to be kind of the last thing. So I think we're going to start with that because it's kind of the beginning of the line. So here we are dropping off bottled water, which of course they were bringing from one of our bauxite locations, and picking up empty canisters. And if we get some bottled water on the line. You see they go across and they pop up to a big old water tower. This is like one of those, the city municipal water towers. And so, of course, we're taking advantage of gravity by using the belts to bring the solid products up and then gravity feeding the water back down. So, of course, inside of that is a compact setup of packers to unpack all of the water bottles and send the empty canisters back down to the station to be picked up and sent back. So that is where it starts. Of course, that goes to our first building, which we saw in our, previous walkthrough. So we're not going to have to examine that too much. By the way, I did add a tower there for a radar tower because it looks industrial and I thought that would be nice. But let's view this from the perspective of a Ficsit employee working at the aluminum station, because that is what this is. It is a complex for employees. Yeah, that's the way they would show up at work. Of course, this is don't judge my driving. Of course, this is a industrious location, so it has a guard shack. Now, obviously that doesn't actually work, so we're going to pretend that we drove through it, and we're going to try not to hit any pedestrians. It could be out walking around. Get our car back over, driving the wrong lane. Before we drive through the lot, let's actually walk around here. As you can see, this is a nice little nature area for employees to walk around when they're on break. Kind of beautify the campus. I walled off, all around down here so that we can't see that it was a pit. And, put some barriers around or some railing so that no one gets hurt. And if they get hurt, then it's their own fault. But, we preserved whatever trees we could, and made it look nice, to walk around here, some bushes and whatnot. I might clean some of these up, like this probably should go. But, we saw this before. We had to preserve this tree, and we can just go inside. Now, I believe we've already done a walkthrough on this. I'm pretty sure I probably didn't cut that out. But I did reverse the lights, or the windows for the lighting. It just bugged me. I felt like they were just going the wrong way. So I tore down the entire roof and rebuilt those in the opposite direction, and I feel much better about the way they are going. But you can see here we have some parking for the employees. The blue ones, of course, would be handicap, and you can see some people here at work. And then these would be the kind of the VIPs, because they are right up next to the building. They don't actually have to go to a parking lot. drive around. So this thing does not corner real well. Oh no, we don't want to go over the edge. Good thing we have barriers. So we can look up and actually kind of look at the area here. As you can see, we have parking lots for the employees, lighting for those who are working late. And then we have the first gap between buildings. I mentioned I was going to conceal the conveyors, and I had a design for that, and this is how that is working. So we have, an area for trucks to come in and load and unload, and the buildings are connected by these little dividers here. And this is also hiding the conveyors in the background. You can see we also have trash, somewhere you have industrial trash, of course. And as you can see, we have a truck that is in the process of being loaded or unloaded. And we have walkways between the buildings. This is in America, so even though our trains go on the left track, we do drive on the right. And we have, of course, markers here. It's safe to turn in here. You just can't turn right at this location because the parking lot is directional. Well, I am just not doing a good job of driving. But this way you can, employees can come through here, and this will help the flow of traffic by having it one way. And I mentioned that I wanted to have the limestone refineries kind of out in the open to add to the appearance of it being industrial. And I think this came out wonderfully, just having a little sectioned off area. And I've worked in large scale locations kind of like this myself personally, and there's always been some kind of external equipment that made it, wherever the industrial part was. And so I really like having that out here in the open. I think it works out wonderfully. I'm going to drive down the wrong way on the road. You can see we also have recycling bins because we care about the environment, even if Ficsit doesn't. And we have some belts on the exterior, and there are the belts for the final product on the outside. And this is a building we have not seen. This is our smelting building. And the windows are a little obscured by the conveyors, but that's all right. The employees on the inside can watch the product go along the lines. Again, that's the final product. And this gave us an excuse to have more of these archways, which is something that I really would like to have more in here, or one, two. We didn't put railing on this one, probably should have. I think that really adds to the walkway, to the archway. As you can see, of course, the doors are functional. And we kept the land feature there. We had a path to drive around it. It wasn't completely necessary, but I like it. And then going to the final building, this is really the true production building. This is where all of our aluminum products are made. And we have what I, kind of imagine as like a company logo built into the wall. I really like the way this design came out. I worked a lot on this one. It took a long time. This is another one of the walls I tore down many times and rebuilt. And I'm just very pleased with the way it came out. Of course, we have a truck that's kind of in motion, coming or going, who knows. And, just the interior is the same as we've seen it before. We can come up here, you can see that the employees can come out and enjoy the view. And another small parking lot, and we have a little parking area there for one of the loader and unloaders. And then the employees can come over here on break, maybe, and watch the trains go by. In fact, I put a braking signal right there. So there, could be if a bunch of trains came in at the same time, there could be a reason for a train to stop here. We also have a downstairs entrance where it's blocked off from traffic. And that's just another way into the building. But this is the complex. Very happy with the way it came out. We're going to just go ahead and leave the car there for a moment, kind of run around and fly a little bit so we can get a little bit better view. You can see the products are streaming along quite nicely. Looks like the water is not overflowing yet, but that should be the very last thing. Everything should be running at full tick before any water has to overflow. And this is just kind of our safety guard so that we can't get backed up on water. I'm not worried about the water not being there yet. It's just fine. But this is it. This is the Illuminati, and we don't have power out here for me to fly. But I'm very happy with the way the buildings came together. They are all unique, but yet they follow a similar theme, which helps a lot with the, how the bottom floor is all that kind of same dark crimson, and a lot of highlighting features with the aluminum siding. And the final one had those highlights. So I just love the way this came out, and the way that this whole complex feels like, a living, working complex. And yeah, I'm just so happy with it. This is a vision I've had in my head for a while, and it really came to life. And I'm just so excited about it. I just so love the way it came together. And I have blocked off a lot of this so it's not floating. There's still some of it to be done, but for the most part, that's, it's a lot more stable looking. And again, a little guardhouse here. I'm so pleased with this, where employees can come and go. And the areas here is open for employees to be able to walk through it because it is a walking area. And there's just little decals all over the place that just brings this whole thing to life. And I just love it. And I love the tower. I think we need to get back home. This has probably been quite a lengthy bit. We're probably well over time, but I think that this justified any time over. I just want to run back up and down the road and just look at it. I love this so much. I love how it came out. But I think it's gonna be it. So let's go back home, wrap this up, and and call it an episode. So I will see you there. It's definitely great to be back home after a long project. I mean, I know we come back at the end of every episode, but after this episode, I don't have to go back to the Illuminati. We can move on to do something else. Actually, I think next episode will be down there again, because we finished up the 85 gigawatt power plant through our live streams, and I wanted to do an episode that's a walkthrough kind of what the entire facility is. And I have different save points after each live stream that I kind of want to load up and show you how it came together, and that will easily be an episode. That project was like a 90 to 100 hour project, so that will probably be next episode. And I know what we want to do for the next few episodes, so there's a lot to do, and I'm eager to get to it. And so, be sure to come back next week. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe. I know that we've got a lot of new viewers. This aluminum project seems to have caught attention, and I love it. I love that more people are starting to see the series and starting to return. And you guys you're awesome. Thank you very much for spending your time here. It is really appreciated. Definitely hit the comment section if you like seeing the long form version of large projects like this. There are more large projects coming in the future. So let me know in the comments section what you thought of this little mini series, and let me know what you think of the Illuminati, what it looks like, how it came together as a living location. It's probably been my favorite project that we've done so far. And be sure to like it. We're definitely out of time. So thank you very much for hanging out with me. Thank you for watching, and be sure to come back next episode.